doing more than one things. Enjoying the great city of Newport News. I got 4 months leave here, 3 months down. Yeah, 3 months. April, May, June. I'd say two. So I've decided to go around and do some stuff for the channel. You know, explore the past. It's not necessarily peaceful, but it's necessary, right? To know the past, understand the future, and make sure the past never happen again. So if it's your first time coming across this channel, you already know. I need a drone so I can give a drone view of this place. It's so eerily peaceful here. And you can imagine our ancestors, right? So go ahead, like, share, subscribe, and you already know, Judah Lion Lifestyle TV, the one and glasses. Beautiful, man. Beautiful. Historical ENDVIEWn Great House. And this land is just so peaceful over here. That's the great house there. I don't see nobody around here. ENDVIEWn, built in 1760. This place been around, man. Obviously it's been restored. ENDVIEWn Plantation. Between James and York Rivers, adjacent to the Warwick River. Okay, people, I'm not going to read all this. There you go. I guess this is, Curtis. Hardwood Curtis. Probably was my ancestor. Union military officials relocated thousands of former slaves to a camp occupied Virginia, including ENDVIEWn, where 7 African families were assigned to farm the land on the backs of our blood, sweat, and tears. Dr. and Mrs. Curtis at 11. What the Curtis? So this was, man. I'll probably, this Curtis, my last name. This is probably my ancestors. They probably came to Jamaica, and that's how I got my name. It's my own. Yeah, I own this place, man. Oh, the white side, Maria Whitaker Curtis. Good to meet you. Simon Curtis family, 1900. Wow. Sweet. Go ahead and read, folks. Well, I'm about to see if anybody is there. I don't see nobody here, man. Please knock. So I'm gonna knock and see if they are. Wow, this is so peaceful, man. This is nice. So, they don't even come out. All right, I think I'm gonna cut this thing short. All right. Let's see. Keep it running. Oh, you did, sir? I was just wondering, what time is the tour?
It's whenever.
Oh, how much it is? Do you have veteran discounts?
We do. Military.
Yeah. All right, hold on.
Well, you pay in the bedroom, in the basement.
Oh, there's somebody down there?
No, well, we'll follow you.
Okay, okay. All right. Yeah, I'm just doing a little thing for my YouTube channel.
I see.
Yeah, it's called Judah Lion Lifestyle TV.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, my last name is also Curtis, man.
I see.
Yeah. So I'm thinking these might be some ancestors of mine.
Perhaps.
You never know. You been to Jamaica?
No, I've not.
Yeah.
We'll go through the side door.
Oh, okay, okay. How you doing, sir?
Good, good, yeah.
Whoa. Okay, so that's an ID.
All right. That'll be $7.
Yes, I went up to the other one. Same thing. Nice. So you all get a lot of people out here, sir, or it's just like
It picks up a little more as the weather gets better.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of slow in the winter.
yes, sir.
Yeah, festivals, a couple different festivals, and those are really crowded. So.
And where are you from?
Jamaica originally. Been here in 2000. Did almost 20 years in the army. Yeah, being in the army was my first job in America, man.
The army was?
Yeah. Well, yeah, right out of Jamaica straight. Kansas. You been in Kansas? Fort Riley?
I've been through Kansas.
Yeah.
Same here.
Okay, yes, sir.
Yeah. I was Navy.
Oh, Navy?
Yeah.
I was I don't know what you call them in the army, but I was a supply guy.
Oh, I was a quartermaster in the Navy.
Same here.
Yeah, that's-
Which is different.
Yeah, but it's the same thing though. Supply.
No.
Oh, is it?
Quartermaster in the Navy is navigation.
Oh,
So I-
okay.
My watches were up on the bridge, you know.
Yes, sir.
Dealing with the charts and telling the officers which way to go.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, welcome to ENDVIEWn Plantation. My name is John. I'll be your tour guide this morning. The presentation here is,
Yes, sir.
and you'll see that once we get upstairs. Some of the rooms, as it was just prior to the war, and then the other ones are dedicated to
Yes, sir.
the war. So.
Yes, sir.
But our history goes back well before that, so let's start right over here. Our history goes back to this guy. It's Captain Thomas Harwood, who came over from England in 1623.
Yes, sir.
So, 402 years ago. And by 1635, he acquired 1,500 acres of property in this area, including what became ENDVIEWn Plantation. And he did that through what was called the headright system. There was a lot of folks back in England who wanted to come to the New World who couldn't afford to get here.
Yes, sir.
So he would pay their passage on a ship, and in turn, they were obligated to work for him as indentured servants for a period of about 5 to 7 years, depending on how the contract was written for them. And after that, they were free people, and they probably moved further west and make a claim on some land. So that's how it all worked out. At the same time, the King of England was anxious to develop the area, colonization, because he was in competition with the Spaniards and the French, who were further up north as far as developing the area. So anyway, so the king was anxious to do that. So he gave him 50 acres for every person that he brought across. So by 1635, he brought 30 people across, had 1,500 acres, which was the beginning of what became ENDVIEWn Plantation. He called it Harwood's Plantation because that was his last name.
Okay.
Now, after the tour, if you're really interested, you can come back down here and you know read all the stuff on these walls. But this is a nominal half-hour tour.
Well, I just like to see my last name up there, man.
You can get there.
I really got a kick out of that.
But after I do the house tour, people typically take there's a walking tour of the grounds. That's the map itself.
Okay, yeah. I'll walk around, no problems.
So I skip ahead here. This became Harwood's Plantation
Yeah.
back again. That's in beginning in 1635, and it went from Harwood to Harwood to Harwood, being handed down over the years. The Harwoods were pretty important people in the area. They served in the House of Burgesses up in Williamsburg. Actually, Thomas was Speaker of the House for a period of time.
Yes, sir.
So we have several generations of Harwoods. We come to this guy here, William Harwood. He built this house in 1769. So the house is 256 years old.
Oh,
And that's what you'll see once we get upstairs.
yes, sir.
Skipping ahead again, here's where the name changes. This is Dr. Humphrey Harwood Curtis. He's still a Harwood through his mother, but the surname
Curtis.
changes to Curtis at this point in time.
Yes, sir.
Also, he changed the name of the property. He bought it from his uncle, who was a Harwood, but he built the road that you drove in on.
The long
You
one.
get an in view of the house.
Oh, that's why I call it ENDVIEWn.
In view plantation, yeah.
Okay.
He did that beginning in 1858. And he was a doctor. He graduated from Jefferson Medical College in Philadelphia in 1858. Came back down here where he was from. That same year, he married Mariah Whitaker. And the two of them together had 11 children throughout the course of their lifetime together. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Again, he was a doctor. And you can see, here's his picture right there. He's wearing a military uniform.
Yeah, medical.
So what happened, 1861, Civil War breaks out. Him being a good Southerner and a man of some means, being a doctor, he trained a company of men here. He called it Warwick Beauregards that he trained right on the property,
Yes.
80-man company. And he was elected captain the first year. Second year, 1862, early 1862, I guess they had another election, and he was not reelected. And back then, the enlistments were only 1 year at the beginning of the war, and he was given a discharge in early 1862. Have you heard of the Peninsula Campaign?
No.
So-
I only been here 4 years.
Okay, were you
Yeah,
stationed
all
at
the
Fort
Texas.
Eustis at one time?
Yeah, my wife is at Fort Eustis.
Yeah,
I got out at Fort Sam in Texas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
In 1862, the army, the Union Army, was called the Army of the Potomac. They were up in Washington, D.C., and they tried coming down from the north several times, and always got hung up right around the Rappahannock River.
Yeah.
So General McClellan, who was in charge of it by that time, said, "I'm going to make an amphibious landing at Fort Monroe." Have you been to
Yeah.
Fort Monroe?
No, I haven't done that one yet. I'm just going around and
Going
doing
around.
some. I like history, and I'm a history
right,
guy.
Sure. Fort Monroe is right at the tip of the peninsula, and I highly recommend to go and see it,
Fort
especially
Monroe.
being
Yeah.
an army man.
Yes, sir.
But it's got a moat all around it, and it's really tough to get to. And the Confederates never took control of it throughout the entire war, so it remained in Union hands. He landed his army, McClellan did, in 1862, March of 1862. And 123,000 men, and then all the animals to pull the wagons, mules, and horses, all the heavy artillery, etc., everything an army needs to move. And he was going to push up the peninsula and take Richmond in 1862 and put an early end to the war. It didn't happen, however. Richmond was successfully defended during a series of battles called the 7 Days Battles, which took place right outside of Richmond. But the Union did come through here. This became occupied territory for the remainder of the war, beginning in April of 1862. And so what the family did was, he was already at the army. They evacuated. They went to a large refugee colony. Which was down
So they
here.
left the house empty and
They
everything.
left the house, yep. And he left, they had 12 enslaved people also. They left them. What happened to those people, we don't know. They probably wound up, being taken by the Union and became
Free man.
freemen by that time. But anyway, they went to a farm right just across the state line. It's actually in North Carolina, but right by Danville, Virginia, which is right in the center of the state. And they spent the rest of the war there. It's very large. 1865, they return, and they find 7 former slave families that were put here by the Freedmen's Bureau to work the property. It took him 7 months to raise the money to pay the back taxes, and also he signed an oath of amnesty, or an amnesty oath, which we have a copy of over here, which he stated that he would never rebel against the United States again, and he got his farm back. He died in 1881, however, at the age of 49. Mariah, his wife, however, lived on until 1919, and that's her right here outside the house greeting some guests right before, right about 1899, excuse me, or 1900.
Yes, sir.
Right at the turn of the century there. The property remained in the Curtis family until 1985. So from 1635 to 1985, 350 years, this property was in the same family, which is a long time for this country.
So does any of the family still alive?
They're in the area, yes, as a matter of fact, and there's a very large plot at the graveyard at the church across the street. And there's a big Curtis family plot there. It's the biggest stone in the place. And when you leave here, you feel free to
Yes,
in the
sir.
parking lot. You will see.
No problems.
Yeah. But anyway, so his family's still in the area. Yeah. It was sold by the last of the Curtises living here in 1985 to a local real estate company who used it as a rental property for 10 years. In 1995, the city acquired it and decided on making a Civil War museum out of it.
Nice.
Any questions before we go upstairs?
No. Very well. I mean, I did a tour of the other one. What's it called?
The hall?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is more detailed, man.
Yeah.
Watch these steps. I saw that on the news. Up. Got my last name, man. Oh, man.
What's your last name?
Curtis. Yeah, Curtis, man. So I think I got some connection to him, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no kidding. Wow. The house, as you walk up to the house, you may have noticed that there's chimneys on both.
Yes.
Symmetrical, almost. I mean, the rooms on this end are a little bit larger than the rooms on that end. But symmetry is typical of Georgian architecture. Yeah. And that's what was going on during that part of our colonial history, was Georgian architecture, named after King George over in England.
Yes, sir.
It's 70% original. You see the flooring throughout is heart pine. And what we have here is called the central hallway or the stair hall. Also called the breezeway because back then there was no air conditioning like we have today. But back then it gets very hot here. Have you spent any summers here yet?
Oh yeah, I've been here 4 years.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so you know what summertime is.
I know,
so
man.
you can open the doors and get a little bit of breeze.
Can't get worse than Kuwait though, or Iraq.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No
trust me.
thanks.
I spent 03. I was over there when they were getting rid of Saddam.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was out of Georgia.
Yeah.
No. My first trip to Iraq was from Fort Riley with the infantry when they did the invasion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in the back, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Never saw combat, fortunately.
I got
Anyway, this is called a floorcloth, which is a piece of canvas that's painted over and then sealed, and it's just something you put in your high traffic area.
Yes, sir.
Let's go into the parlor. Okay.
Okay. It's a lot smaller inside.
This is the formal room of the house.
Yeah.
The Curtises, in the 1860 census showed that the Curtises were the 9th wealthiest family in Warwick County. Now you are standing in present-day Newport News, Virginia.
Yes, sir.
However, up until 1958, most of the landmass of what is now Newport News was just called Warwick County. Newport News was only at the very tip of the peninsula, down where the shipyards are and the downtown. Yeah, so it's Warwick. Warwick County. The 1860 census showed us they were the 9th wealthiest family, which provided them some of the finer things of life, like wall-to-wall carpeting, hand-painted window shades. And this carpeting is laid down in strips. Sometimes you can see the seams if you look real closely.
Feet soft.
And the reason for it was there was no vacuum cleaners back then. So when it came time to clean your carpet, you took it up piece by piece.
Yes, sir.
Rolled it up, took it outside, threw it over a tree limb, and got your carpet beater out, and that's how you cleaned your carpet.
Yeah.
Fortunately, they didn't have to do it all that often because kids weren't allowed in this room very often. Right over here in this picture,
Martha.
that is Mariah when she was a young lady. Before she got married, and we believe that's true because her hair is down. Yeah. Typically, they would put it up after they got married back then.
Oh.
Yeah, that's called a pastel portrait, which is a photograph that was blown up and then hand painted to add color. The color has long since faded, though, due to the age of the thing.
So that's an authentic one?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. You recognize this lady?
That's her when she's older.
Nope.
Oh, that's it.
It would help if I pointed out her husband's picture over here.
I saw it look like George Washington.
That is George Washington, and that's Martha Washington over there.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason they're here,
I remember,
during that period of our history, the house was considered complete without the Washingtons being on your
walls. Oh, okay.
Very, very revered individuals.
Yes.
Mariah played the piano pretty much all her life. She was actually giving piano lessons to soldiers shipping up.
Does it still work?
It's a pump organ. But this is not her piano. The Curtis family story is that if it still exists, it's somewhere north of the Mason-Dixon line.
Okay.
Because the house was occupied by both in the north and the south, and we believe that that's what they say. That's their story. So we have no way of proving that. Sure. That's a period piece. It's called a melodeon, but it's a type of pump organ. But that's just to represent her piano.
Yes, sir.
As a matter of fact, all of the furnishings you see throughout the house were obtained by the city during that 5-year restoration period before we opened as a museum in the year 2000. Yes, but there are 2 pieces from the Curtises. That's right here. This tilt table.
Oh, nice. Nice.
And that's chair. Those are from the Curtises.
You can make space with that if you ain't using it. You just put it up.
Yeah, right.
And that's a pipe, right?
Yeah, yep. Well, no. This is for putting out
the candle.
candles. That's a snuffer. It's called a snuffer.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah. The pipes look kind of like that. They're typically made out of clay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. You see the baseboard. There's no marble in this part of the world, but there's plenty of pine.
Yeah.
So what they did was they made faux marble. That's by painting like that. Any questions in this room?
No, sir. The living room full of
Let's move
history,
across the
man.
hall then.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. When the house was built, this was built as the kitchen and the dining room. You know it was a kitchen because of the deep hearth there. That way you get your big pots and that sort of thing in there over the fire. When the Curtises got married in 1858, rather, watch how you tie your shoe for you.
Oh, yeah.
Let me hold your phone while you do that.
Yeah, that's good right there, man. Keep rolling, brother.
Okay. When the Curtises got married in 1858, they were given a very large canopy bed as a wedding present that they couldn't get up the stairs into the master bedroom. So what Dr. Curtis did is the basement that we did the introduction in, that was not there. That was only a root cellar at the time. He had it excavated to its current depth. That became the dining room. By that point in time, before the Curtises moved in, one of the Harwoods had built an outdoor kitchen. So
Okay, that's the small one over there.
and it's right, if you look out there, you can see where, well, there's some sandbags or something out there. It's right around there. We found it about 8 years ago during the archaeological dig.
The foundations.
Yeah, they did. So this was their bedroom, is what it was.
Oh.
But he was a doctor during the Civil War periods. We call this the doctor's office. And we have on display various items that a Civil War doctor would have. Now, during the Civil War, there were over 800,000 casualties.
Oh, that's
Some
a lot.
estimates go as high as 1.2 million. It's pretty hard.
The most bloodiest war ever, man.
Yeah. All Americans too.
Yeah.
And a lot of it caused by this guy. Do you know what that is?
It's a bullet. Yeah, it's
It's a bullet. It's got a special name. It's called a mini ball.
the mini ball. Yeah,
Mini balls, 58 caliber slug of lead.
Yeah.
It was invented by a guy
That would break bone, man.
In France. What's that?
That would break bone.
Exactly. That's right where
I
was
felt
going
the
with.
weight.
Yeah, and that thing hits an arm.
Yeah,
or
yeah.
leg,
It takes
shatters
almost
the
takes it
bone,
off. Yeah.
shatters
So
the bone.
headshot, you're pretty much done.
Yep. Well, that's why a doctor would have to have a series of flesh cutting knives, bone saw, tourniquets, because they were doing amputations.
Yes,
left
straight.
and right. But for every soldier that died as a direct result of combat, 3 more died from disease because
And blood loss.
One
Blood loss.
infection was a lot of it. They were going from soldier to soldier to soldier, cutting, not cleaning anything. So infection took a lot out. Natural diseases, dysentery was a big killer, as well as malaria.
Yes, sir.
This is called the nurses' camp. The Civil War was really about the first time women started being involved with the armies as nurses. That's what they were doing back then. Examples of medicines of the period: arsenic, turpentine, mercury, to be taken internally. And they knew it was poison, but the theory was that if you take just enough, you'll kill the disease, but not the patient.
Oh, so they try to give it in doses.
I'm not sure it always worked that way.
No.
But, yeah, they were still actually bleeding people.
Yeah, I'm using a leech.
Yeah, I thought that stopped before that until I started giving this tour.
Yeah. Oh. Hey, man, you ought to study for this, right?
I'm a volunteer, but there's a script that they give us.
And you memorize
basic.
it.
Yeah, you memorize it because I've been doing it about 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
But I've added a lot to it just because I've been doing a lot of
Research.
reading about the
Yes,
war. When they moved in, this was a china closet. But since they made it their bedroom, they converted it to a bathroom.
Oh.
Now we have a spring. You'll see that on the walking tour. Okay, it's just on that little hill. It's not very far. But you didn't have a bath every day because of the process involved. You have to go down there with buckets, bring the water up to the outdoor kitchen, heat it up, bring it in here, dump it, bucket up to bucket. By the time you had enough water, the whole family bathed in that water.
Oh.
So there's a certain pecking order. The father went first, the mother went second.
So there was no ladies first back then?
Then all the kids in accordance to age.
Yes, sir.
And then the baby would be the last one in there by that
I
time.
think I read about that, and then that's why they got sick and
Well, that's part of it, but also by that time the water was very dirty, and thus the saying, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
oh, Nice.
I've heard that saying before. But this is an embalming table of the period. It's a real thing. It was used. But there wasn't a ton of embalming of the soldiers going on.
You say embalming?
Embalming, yeah.
Oh.
But most of the soldiers did not get embalmed because there were casualties were so many.
Yeah.
And some of them were battlefields were pretty remote, so you just bury them right there. And that's why we have these national cemeteries all over the country.
Yeah.
But it did happen on occasion. If the circumstances were just right, there was a railroad right there, and you had an embalming surgeon, you could get your soldier embalmed for about $25 to $85 and then shipped home on a train.
That's a Bible, right?
That's a fair amount of money. Yeah. I'm going to get to that in just a second.
Yes.
These are Dr. Curtis documents of his. This is matriculation document from the Jefferson Medical College.
Original.
This is about the courses he took. They call it tickets taken, but today we would say courses taken.
Okay. Yeah.
And you can see the handwriting is really good for those doctors back then because people really took a lot of pride in their handwriting. That's called a stereoscope. It's a period piece. It's just for entertainment. We give you a 3D image. You put a picture in there. It's just like the ViewMaster.
Yeah.
You put the disc in.
And you click it.
Yeah. Early version.
Yeah.
Not Family Bible, yes. That's the Family Bible of the period. It's not the Curtis's Family Bible, however, but it is a period piece.
Yeah.
And the family Bibles are extremely important documents in that they keep track of births, marriages, deaths, land transfers. Anything that's really important was documented in the Family Bible. When I first started giving this tour, I had an old guy in here. He was really old. And he said, I couldn't prove to the federal government who I was to get my Social Security. He presented the Family Bible. They accepted it as ID, and he got a Social Security.
Wow.
I was kind of skeptical, like, really? But I've had that story validated many times since then by people in here. Because, my uncle so-and-so had a good thing. So that's true. In a couple rooms of the house, you will see steamer trunks, suitcases, and that's just to give the flavor of the impending evacuation.
That one looks really old.
1862, yeah. That's just, family was bugging out is what they were doing.
Yeah.
Any questions in here before we go
No,
upstairs?
sir. That's like a seaman's trunk.
Yeah, it's just an old trunk.
Yeah. No, we can go upstairs now, sir. No problems.
Let's go upstairs.
No problems, man. Steps and more steps. You don't want to get a fall in these houses.
No. On the way, it's not bad going up, but on the way down, watch your head.
Well, I'm short, man.
Yeah.
Trust me.
I think you still hit that one though.
But let's see. No, bro. I get shorter every day.
Oh, so do I.
Yeah.
This is in my back.
Yeah, but not like me, man. It's different for the short guys, man. It's life ain't equal for the short guys, man. Yeah, the women be like, you kind of nice, but boy, I've been waiting for that growth spurt for like since damn high school, and they still ain't here.
This was the master bedroom they couldn't get that canopy bed into.
Oh.
So they made it a children's bedroom because they did have a lot of kids. And that's what we call it, children's bedroom. Children back in the era would have duties they had to perform, like emptying chamber pots in the morning, potty chairs.
Yeah.
Examples of children's clothing of the period. When they were babies, before they were potty trained, both boys and girls would wear something like that. And that just made it easier to get to the diaper.
Yes, sir.
Little girls would then transition into a dress like this. Boys, typically knickers like that. That's just a toy of the period, a porcelain head doll baby. And this is a rope bed.
Wow.
And it's jute rope. And with time, with the weight of the bodies being on there, ropes would stretch
Break.
and it would sag. So you had to have a way of tightening that thing out.
I've never seen that design before.
Yeah. So they had this wrench or a key.
Yeah.
And it was a two-person process. One person on each side of the bed. You can put this on the rope, turn it, and you pull the slack.
Yes, sir.
Pass it across, repeat the process until you got to the end. Then you'd have a certain length of rope that you tie off into a big knot. Thus the saying, sleep tight.
Nice. Oh.
Yeah.
Sleep tight.
Yeah, there's a
Nice.
second part to that saying, but I found this part on the internet, so take it for what it's worth. But I read that this was called a bed bug.
Bed. Oh.
And you could get your finger pinched while you're doing it.
Yeah.
Sleep tight, don't let the bed bug bite.
Whoa. Sleep tight. Don't let the bed bugs bite. You heard it, folks?
But again, this part of it, so there's no extra charge for that.
This I could tell you this for the kids.
Yep. Homeschooling was the order of the day. So to represent that, we have this sampler.
Yeah.
And what it is, it's the alphabet, uppercase, lowercase, and the numbers are in between. But what's interesting, there's no J in the lowercase and there's no I in the uppercase.
Wow. So that probably didn't made it into the. Because the English they spoke came from England, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as I understand it, the J didn't start appearing until about 1600. Prior to that, the I was used.
Okay.
And do you ever see the movie Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade?
Yes.
This
Yes.
is the one where they're after the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
And it's being guarded by this knight who's 900 years old.
Yes.
Deep within.
Sir Galahad.
What's that?
Sir Galahad.
No, wait, I don't think they ever put a name on him.
But I read King Arthur and the Knights, man. It's Sir God. He's the most holy or
Yeah.
worthy. Yeah, he the one that went to search for the Holy Grace.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
there you go. But he was in there. But Nazis were trying to get the Holy Grail
Yeah.
because they felt
Powers,
give you,
yeah.
powers, everlasting life, I guess.
Yes.
Indiana Jones, didn't want them to have it, so he got to this cave first. But you have to pass a series of tests of worthiness to get in to where that knight was guarding him. And they had clues that they got. And the first one was only the penitent man shall pass. And he's thinking to himself, what's a penitent man do? It's how he prays. So he gets on his knees and starts advancing into the cave, and these blades come out. They would have cut his head off had he been standing up.
Yes.
So he passed the test. Well, later on, he had to spell Jehovah on these stones that were floating in midair over this deep chasm. And he stepped out and stepped on a J, and it crumbled beneath his foot. And he almost falls to his death, but he miraculously saves himself. He says, there's no J in Latin. And he spells it with the I and goes across. So that's what we think it is. It's something to do with the Latin.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Examples of Confederate money. When I first started volunteering here, I picked this one up and said, well, that's fake. But they assure me it's real.
Oh, these?
Yeah.
No, state of. Oh.
And it's issued by the state, like North Carolina.
Yeah.
And that's South Carolina, but they splurged.
Oh.
South Carolina had a lot of money.
Oh, so they did it better than them, because I've never seen the money with just one side.
Yeah, you can actually go online and look up Confederate money,
Yeah.
and you'll see examples of that.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it's issued by the states and then the overarching Confederate government as well. We use this room for a lot of different things, just of the period. That's a lady's hoop dress. That's typically what they would wear when they were being seen by other people.
I seen it up at the other one in the Great House.
Yeah.
Yeah, they showed me one of these.
Yeah. That's what they wear when they go out. We have a lady who does this tour, and she always dresses in period costume when she does it.
Yeah, I seen it
The
on
hoops
you.
are much bigger.
Yeah.
Actually, that hoop is very understated.
Yeah.
And it has to do with the size of the room. So sometimes we get a lot of people for these tours.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have a big one in here. But reading articles of the period. This is a reading lamp, and in it you put your fuel, typically whale oil, and you light your wick. There's a magnifying glass on it. You put your reading glasses on, and you could theoretically get enough light to read a book at night.
Yes, sir.
Yep. And right here behind me, this is a picture of Frances Curtis. That's Dr. Curtis's little sister,
Yes.
Fanny. They called her Fanny
That's my
Curtis,
white
and she
cousin.
was a young lady, already married when the Union Army was coming through here. So she and her husband evacuated with the rest of the family down to the Danville, Virginia area. And that's where she died as a young lady in her early 20s, and we believe due to childbirth.
Okay. Yeah, that got a lot of women back then.
That was just common.
Complications.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunately, very common. And again, the steamer trunk, carpet bag, just family.
Are those original pieces?
They're period type
Period.
pieces.
Okay, but you could tell it's say
Yeah.
still can use it. That bag is a
It's a carpet bag.
carpet. Yeah.
Yep. And we don't believe that this wall was here when the house was built.
Oh, they probably added it later.
But as I mentioned, the house was used as a residence until 1995. So by that time, you had running water in the house. This became a bathroom.
Oh.
And you can see that the flooring does not match the original flooring.
Yeah.
And that's because this was a bathroom, and ultimately they got water damage in here. So they did leaking toilets or who knows. But we use it for a couple of different things. In here we have examples of early photography types. That's Dr. Curtis's father. That's a daguerreotype.
Yeah.
And these three are called ambrotypes. These are his siblings here, in-laws, I believe here. And but these are ambrotypes. By the time of the Civil War, they were using what was called a tin type, and each process got each process got a little faster, a little less expensive, a little less toxic as well. Now I mentioned
They were using lead, right?
Mercury.
Mercury
was real common. I mentioned Fanny Curtis in the previous room for a reason. These are her actual items that are loaned to us from a collector in Williamsburg.
Yeah.
But that's when she was a little girl. That was her doll baby bed. This is called, that's called the dressing box back there. And then what that is a kind of a grooming kit, because you can see there's a little jar. She would have had a perfume, and she certainly would have had a hairbrush in there, of course, in the mirror. And it's also got a built-in sewing kit. You can see those brass spools for the thread and the needles on there as well. Let's go into the last room.
Nice, man. Well detailed, sir. I'll give you a 10 out of 10, man.
We call this the soldier's room or the occupied room, because we know the house was occupied by both the north and the south. I don't know if you read any of those signs outside, but
only the one leading up. Because I was kind of wondering if there was anybody here, because I stood out there for, I was like, okay, let go knock on the door.
I'm glad you did. Anyway, the house was occupied by both the north and the south, and from our records, we know that Generals Lafayette, McLaws, and Robert Toombs were here. You were already over at Lee Hall, and that's where John Bankhead Magruder was at. They called him Prince John. He was a major general, so he outranked these two guys. Brigadiers over.
He took over the house from the family.
So he was higher ranking, so he got the nicer place.
Always does, man. Always does.
So the brigadiers were here, but then in April of 1862, the Union came through. They left. But we know who the Union was too, because they left us a reminder. If you look at the mantle, they carved into that mantle, it says Band of Veterans from C1MR.
So this is from original from
Yeah, so the Yankees carved into that. Band of Veterans from C1MR. C1MR being Company C, 1st New York Mounted Rifles. And that's just all right in here.
Yes, sir.
They carved in there. So we know who was here. There's a cavalry outfit that was here. If you go across the church, I mentioned.
It's right up. Yeah, I'll probably go over there.
Yeah, the church has been added on to twice, but the original part of the building is, if you're standing from the road looking at it, the part of the building on the right-hand side, right next to the graveyard.
Yes, sir.
That was here prior to the war. I think it was built in like 1852.
Yeah.
But if you look at it from inside there, you'll see that the bricks underneath the windows don't match the rest of the building. And the reason for that was there was a Pennsylvania cavalry outfit. They used it as a stable. They broke out the bricks and brought the horses in. The church petitioned the government after the war, to get money to repair it. And they never heard back. War has been called, you probably validate this from me, long periods of boredom interrupted by moments of sheer terror.
Yeah.
And that was certainly true during the Civil War. Because they would go into encampment for long periods of time in the winter, because it rains a lot around here in the winter time. And the roads were all just dirt roads. So if you tried moving an army, you'd just get buried in the mud. The most famous account of that's called Burnside's Mud March. You can look that up on the internet. General Ambrose Burnside had just got his butt kicked by James Longstreet from the Confederacy at Fredericksburg, and he was retreating back to Washington, and it rained and rained and rained for days and days and days.
Yes, sir.
He just got buried up to his axles. So anyway, they go into encampment for long periods of time in the winter. Then they would entertain themselves much as we might today. They had checkers, dominoes. And these are called jackstraws back here. And what they are is just pieces of wood that the soldiers would carve to pass the time. And when they got done, they played a game, pickup sticks. Drop it in a pile. People sit around there one at a time. If it moves, you're out.
Yeah.
So the winner is the last guy there. This is just a collapsible cup, something that they had sewn well for a moving army. Officer's field desk. The officer would set this up much like this in camp. And in it, he would have his maps, his field glasses, army regulations, some personal items. There's a pipe, by the way. That's a clay pipe. That's what. When they renovated this place, to turn it into a museum, they did a lot of digging around pieces of those pipes all over the place.
A lot of smoking. They did a lot of smoking.
Well, there's some smoking tobacco. Back then, that's why they grew it around here. This is a .44 caliber Remington Army revolver, which was developed just right before the war.
Can this thing still fire? Probably could.
What's that?
Can it still?
I'm sure it
work?
would.
I'm just wondering. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it has been fired or not, but
They probably got people that come through here and check them out and fix them.
Not anymore. These are all just kind of sitting here.
Okay.
We're here. We have a typical infantryman's gear of the Civil War. And that's his backpack, and in it he'd have his blanket. He'd also have half of a puck tent, which we don't have on display. And when it came time to bivouac, him and his buddy would get together. They'd button it together at the top, and that's where they'd spend the night. Haversack, in which he kept his food. Typically, the fare of the Civil War soldier was hardtack. Just, dry bread, it's flat, and it doesn't spoil that way. So hardtack. If he was lucky, he'd have a protein source like that salt pork. His cartridge box, in which he had 40 of the mini balls I showed you downstairs.
Yes.
And 40 bags of black powder. His belt, which had his bayonet on it, and his percussion cap box. Canteen, and then the musket. It's the pattern 1853 Enfield, which was developed in the Enfield arsenal.
I think it's almost as tall as me.
yeah. And when it came time to fire,
Yeah.
the soldier would go into his cartridge box, take out a bag of powder, rip it open with his teeth, dump it in, get the mini ball, drop it in, take the ramrod out, tamp it all down, pick it up, hammer back, go into his cap box, and put the cap on, aim, and fire. A good infantryman could get off about 3 rounds a minute.
Yeah.
All together.
Got they trained? They had to, because I mean.
You want to feel the weight of the musket?
Yeah. Well.
All together, he was carrying about 55 pounds.
Yeah, man. It got some weight to it too.
Yeah. So all together, he had about 55 pounds. Now, I've had active duty soldiers, infantry soldiers in here. They tell me that these days it's like 85 that they carry.
Yeah.
But people are, nutrition's a lot better these days. These guys are starving to death.
Yeah.
Especially the Confederates. Barefoot,
Yeah,
starving.
because they didn't
March
have
20
the
miles and fight a 3-hour battle.
Whoa.
How do you do that? Since it was a cavalry outfit, we have their gear here also. It's all the same, but it's incomplete. I mean, we have the whole bit to represent the horse, but the main difference is the weapon.
That looks better than that one.
There's no way you can handle that musket on a horse. I mean, you're controlling a horse with one hand. Yeah. So this is called the Sharps carbine.
So that came after that one.
Yeah. Developed just prior to the war, but it's a carbine, and the big difference is it's a breech loader. So what you did, you pull this back, drop that down, and the breech block here drops out of the way. So you load it this way, in reverse.
Faster.
Put the ball in first, then the powder, close it up, hammer back, cap, all it's the same. Ammunition it looks the same. This is 50 caliber, and that's 58.
Yes, sir.
What's interesting is the weight is
yeah, man. Historical piece. Big up the moderator, man. Blessings. Nice.
Now moving on, cleaning articles that they had. They actually had toothbrushes back then, but nylon wasn't invented until the 1920s.
So what they use for toothpaste though?
Well, you got me. The baking soda, I think.
Yeah.
Baking soda. Yep. And actually, some of the toothpaste these days, if you look at them, some of them have it. I think Crest has so many different kinds of toothpaste. One of them has baking soda in it, but that's what they're using back then. But they didn't have nylon bristles, so they used pig bristle for the back of a pig's neck. Stiff enough that they, horsehair would have been too soft. Well, lye soap. That's the order of the day. Kerosene lanterns. They had those back then, but kerosene wasn't a petroleum product just yet. So what they did was they used coal. And they would heat coal, but not to the point where the coal would ignite, but it started giving off a liquid. That's what they burned with kerosene. Pretty dirty burning stuff, though.
Yes, sir.
When it comes to this part of the tour, this newspaper is from New York City, and it's a genuine. And the main article that you're seeing here is talking about the Battle of Dam Number 1.
Yeah.
Now, when Lafayette McLaws and Robert Tubes were here, Magruder was down at Lee Hall. Magruder came up with the defensive line to stop the Union from coming through here. They ultimately did get through, as I mentioned, in 1862. However, he got the defensive line along the Warwick River. And the Warwick River runs from about a mile near Yorktown to the north, all the way into the James River to the south. And on it, by that time, were 2 mill dams already, Wynn's Mill and Lee's Mill. He built 3 more dams, and the purpose was just to bring the water level up, so it was harder for the Union Army to cross the thing. April 16th, 1862, Vermont Brigade, under the command of General Baldy Smith, had driven this far up to Newport News Park. You ever been to Newport News Park?
Yes. I went over there when they did the lights.
Yeah. If you go there during the daytime, you'll see there's a footbridge going across the reservoir.
Yeah.
That's where this battle took place, the Battle of Dam Number 1. The Vermont Brigade wrote that far, April 16th, 1862. Baldy Smith sent 4 companies of Green Mountain Boys across the dam, which was about waist deep. The Confederates are well dug in over here. And you can go there today and cross that bridge. And if you turn to the left, you'll see the best preserved Confederate earthworks in the country right there. But anyway, the Confederates are well dug in. However, the Green Mountain Boys were fighting a pretty good battle because they managed to dislodge the Confederates, drove them back, got them disorganized. Baldy Smith fell off his horse twice that day. He was accused of being drunk on duty. He was later cleared by a congressional inquiry, but he was obviously dazed. He wasn't up to his usual generalship because he was a pretty good brigadier.
Yeah.
But he did not reinforce his guys or winning the battle on the other side.
Yes,
The
sir.
Confederates reorganized, drove them back across the dam. Of the soldiers that survived that thing, they said it was like the water was boiling because of the mini balls that were just being hailed down upon them by the Confederates on the other side. If you go there today, there's a couple of monuments put up by the state of Vermont to those guys, as well as there's a big mural there that's painted.
Yeah.
If you're talking about that battle. This is a soldier's housewife, which is just a sewing kit. And you can see the smaller mini ball here. This is 50 caliber. That's what the Sharp's carbine would have fired. It's smaller than that one I showed you
Heavy
downstairs.
bullet.
Yeah, that's lead. And this is just a sewing kit that he maintained his uniform with.
Straight lead.
Different articles of the period.
Yes, sir.
And that's the end of the house tour. Any questions?
No problem, sir. Well, what's your name is, man? That's a very much respect. Judeland Lifestyle TV. And I'm going to ask you to subscribe so you can see it. If you don't mind.
What's that?
You got a phone? I'd like you to subscribe.
I left it in the office.
Yeah, all right. We go back downstairs now. All right. Folks, I hope you enjoy that. It's the most detailed and very well presented by Mr. What's your name again, sir? John. If you ever in Newport News, visit this place if you live in America.
ENDVIEWn Plantation.
ENDVIEWn Plantation, one of the best walk tours, man. So peace. I'm out.